Yo, what's up, retail normies? Thank you for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to be teaching you preservation Evoker, which is going to be tough because Evoker is very difficult to play properly. It's very difficult to learn, and you have to change all your fucking builds and shit for every different type of content that you're doing. But I will try to explain it in the best way that I can. Now, this guide is mainly going to be tailored towards healing Mythic Plus dungeons with pugs or with casual shitter guilds, although I will touch on what I think could be good for raiding or for high-end Mythic Plus, but I haven't had a chance to do that content myself. Also, I'm only going to talk about how to maximize your healing in this guide. I'm not going to talk about doing damage unless it's relevant to healing. In my opinion, you should try to nail down the healing side of Evoker first, and then you can fuck around with damage later on if you want. So first off, let's talk about these crazy, wacky looking talent trees. So as it turns out, the left side of the talent tree is easy, because only a handful of those talents actually affect your healing, and I've highlighted them here. So basically you're just going to snag those, and then put the rest of your points into whatever you want. It all just kind of depends on what kind of a Chad you want to be. If you want to be a DPS Chad, you can pick up Leaping Flames. If you want to be a helping Chad, you can pick up the Interrupt talents. If you want to be a selfish Chad, you can spec into my build. And with my build, I'm basically saying that all I fucking care about is healing, and if anything bad happens to anybody else that's not healing related, then I will blame everyone except for me, just like God intended. Now the talent tree on the right is tricky, because a lot of the talents are really good, but you can't take all of them. So I would recommend you go with my build here because it allows you to deal with consistent high damage the best. Typically what will happen in pugs is the tank will be pulling 1 or 2 packs at a time, and as soon as those packs are dead, they'll immediately run to the next packs. Also in pugs you'll have people with various skill levels and gear levels, so you just want to be prepared by speccing into a build that allows you to consistently pump out a lot of healing. On the other hand, if you're in a virgin guild that pulls all of the trash up to the first boss, perhaps you'd want to spec into stasis to give yourself that extra big burst of healing on a long cooldown. Also, stasis could be good for raiding because in raids, you're just trying to pump out as much healing as possible into those big, high raid damage situations. And what you do outside of those situations doesn't really matter that much. So let me explain this build a little bit. The key elements of this build are you get a fat Dream Breath, okay? Your Dream Breath is going to be thick as fuck because of these talents right here. Font of Magic, Call of Ysera, and Renewing Breath. Unfortunately, you have to take Lifebind in order to get Font of Magic, which sucks because Lifebind is complete useless trash, but you know it is what it is. Also, your Living Flame and Fire Breath are going to be huge because of these two talents right here. Then you snag Temporal Anomaly and Resonating Sphere because those allow you to get Essence Bursts often and reliably. It's also just nice to have an Absorb. Absorbs are very rarely bad in this game because you can use them preemptively and they can't overheal. So despite Temporal Anomaly's mana cost being high, it's definitely worth it in my opinion. Also, you can just get all of your mana back super fast in between pulls with drinks, so it doesn't really matter. And if the tank runs 100 miles away from you while you're trying to drink, Evoker has insane mobility with hover and rescue, so you can just catch up really quick. Most of the other stuff is pretty typical. You just take these two talents here in case things get hairy, which they certainly will, and you take Emerald Communion for when you're scared. That's about all I'm going to say about the talents because I don't want to waste too much time on that. I mainly want to focus on getting you guys to understand the gameplay aspect of Evoker because that's the most difficult part. It's better to get a handle on the gameplay ASAP and then you can fuck around with the talents later on if you want. So, the first thing to understand about Evoker is that it's a cooldown based healer, which if you've been playing retail for a while, you're probably used to that because every class on retail is cooldown based now for some stupid fucking reason. It's not at all like classic WoW where you could just pump out insane healing all the time. In retail, if you run out of cooldowns, you're fucked. You're literally just going to be tickling everyone's wieners until your cooldowns come back up. So in dungeons specifically, the optimal way to play is to try and last as long as possible without blowing through all of your CDs. In raids, it won't be like that because you're healing with other healers who can cover for you. so blowing through all of your CDs and fucking yourself doesn't really matter that much. But in dungeons, since you're the only healer, if you blow through all of your CDs too fast, everyone dies. So let's split our healing into sections. Think of these sections as your lines of defense, like you're going into war. Once you've sent in all of your lines, you're fucked. So here's the first line of defense. All it is echo and the first charge of reversion. So when combat starts, you're going to echo the tank and the melee DPS, since they are the ones that are most likely to take damage, and then you're going to press reversion on the tank once he starts taking damage. Also try to reapply echo and reversion on all of the melee whenever it falls off, but especially the tank. You definitely need to keep double reversion on the tank as much as possible. Once you've done that, then you will send in the second line of defense, which is temporal anomaly into living flame. This will do a bunch of healing and absorb to everyone, and you'll get essence bursts from this. You also don't have to just do one living flame, you can do two back to back, since your temporal anomaly will reapply echo to everyone as it travels along. Also, this second line of defense acts as your filler, since temporal anomaly is on such a short cooldown. So basically, you want to use temporal anomaly off cooldown. It'll be like doing a DPS rotation. You're just going to temporal anomaly into two living flames, into another temporal anomaly, into more living flames, and repeat, while also maintaining your first line of defense, which is echo and reversion, on the melee DPS and the tank. For the most part, you'll just spam your first two lines of defense until you get scared. Once you get scared, you'll send in the third line of defense. The third line of defense is quite simply Fire Breath. The way you want to use Fire Breath depends on how many packs of mobs the tank is pulling, or if you're fighting a boss. If the tank only pulls one pack of mobs, then you can just use Fire Breath right on the pull, because the mobs aren't going to last for very long. If the tank is chain pulling multiple packs, I would recommend using Hover to stay with the tank and wait until the mobs are mostly stacked up to use Fire Breath. And if you're on a boss, then just send in the first two lines of defense first, and then wait for some damage to happen, and then use Fire Breath. Don't use Fire Breath on the pull when you're fighting a boss, because you'll just waste it. I'd also recommend using the first Empower level of Fire Breath so that you have a consistent stream of smart healing coming in for 24 seconds. But if the boss bursts the shit out of you and everyone else, you could choose to charge Fire Breath instead. That's your choice. Anyways, the fourth line of defense is Verdant Embrace into Echo Spam into Dream Breath. This is what will give you the fattest, juiciest, most absolutely vile Dream Breath that you can possibly get. However, the ramp up time to do this is quite large, so if you're predicting that the party will take big damage, using all of these globals preemptively is your best bet. But if you end up reacting to the damage with this fourth line of defense, which will probably be happening most of the time, then just be ready to either send the Dream Breath early or use reversion if somebody is close to death. The fifth line of defense is spending all of your essence. So there are a few ways that you can do that. For spot healing situations and spread out healing, you can use Echo with reversion or Echo with Living Flame. Alternatively, if the entire party is taking damage, you could just spam Emerald Blossom to deplete your essence, and make sure you spam it on the melee DPS so that it hits as many people as possible. And here's a little trick for you. If you use Living Flame and press Echo immediately after, it actually consumes the Echo because of the travel time of Living Flame. So make sure that you're doing Living Flame into Echo instead of the other way around, because it's faster. Once you spend all of your essence, you can then send in the sixth line of defense. Tip the scales with Spirit Bloom. You can even send in Zephyr with this if you can even remember that you have that ability, which I definitely cannot. This is the line of defense that you send in when you are absolutely terrified that everybody is going to die. Spirit Bloom is your big Himbo Pog Daddy AoE heal, so you definitely want to make sure that you only use this if it's absolutely necessary. And if we take a gander at the talent trees for a moment, you might be wondering why I don't spec into either of the Spirit Bloom talents. And the reason is because Spirit Bloom is one of your last lines of defense. You don't actually want to press it if you can get away with it. Which is why for dungeon healing specifically, it's not worth speccing into either of these talents. Now, we are at our last line of defense. And as you can probably guess, that is Rewind and Emerald Communion. You should be very, very scared when both of these abilities are on cooldown because once you've sent them, you are fucked until your cooldowns come back up. So make sure you only use these when absolutely necessary. So there you have it. That's the gameplay of Evoker in Dungeons. Now I'll show you what it looks like in game. Alright, so let's start off by looking at this trash pack here. Let's see what happens. So right off the bat, I run in and I use my first line of defense, which is Echo and Renew, or Reversion, sorry. And then I go into my second line of defense, which is Temporal Anomaly and Living Flame. And I'm just kind of waiting until damage happens, and then I'll send in the Fire Breath. There's some damage right there. You see the tank just got smoked. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to send in the third line of defense, which is Fire Breath. Which is good. And now I'm looking for a Dream Breath opportunity. You see I just used Verdant Embrace right there, because I felt the tank needed even more healing. So as soon as I saw the Fire Breath wasn't going to be enough, I sent in the Verdant Embrace. Right. There's Fire Breath, Verdant Embrace right there, into Echo Spam on the melee and myself. And then I send in the biggest Dream Breath ever. So notice that this Dream Breath, I have 2 Dream Breaths on the melee and myself. And all of my talents are tailored towards buffing Dream Breath, and I also have the Verdant Embrace buff for this Dream Breath. So this is the biggest Dream Breath you could ever possibly have. So this is perfect. And now I'm just kind of chilling. I'm just kind of rotating between my first and second lines of defense here, just kind of chilling out. Only going to go to the next line of defense if I feel like it's necessary. I don't think it will be necessary since the trash is dead. So I think we're okay. Yeah, so notice I didn't have to use Spirit Bloom there. I held off on using Spirit Bloom. I didn't use my Rewind. I didn't use Emerald Communion. I just was able to save my last few lines of defense because I didn't feel like I needed them. So that was perfect. Let's go to the next trash pack now. Do the same thing, just Reversion on the tank. Oh, I didn't put Reversion. I just went to the second line of defense first into a Fire Breath. I should have put Renew up, or sorry, Reversion on the tank right at the start, but I didn't. There's the Reversion right there. Okay, good. So here's my first 3 lines of defense, just kind of chilling. Yeah, so I didn't even need to send the Dream Breath this time. So I just like rotated between the first 3 lines of defense here. So that was good. Okay, let's do the next trash pack. Here it is. A lot of trash here. There's the Reversion into the Temporal Anomaly, into the Fire Breath immediately. So there's the first 3 lines of defense. Now I need a Verdant Embrace here for a big Dream Breath. Not using Dream Breath yet, just waiting for damage to happen. There it is. Okay, now I'm going to start using it. Putting Echo up on everybody, Dream Breath. Yep. So there's the 4th line of defense. There we go. Now just kind of chilling, waiting for more damage to happen. I don't think anything else is going to happen. I think that Dream Breath was enough to just keep everybody alive. Yeah. So again, I didn't have to use Spirit Bloom. That was good. Okay. Now let's go to the boss here. Well, this boss was a little bit scary. This is my first time doing it, I'm pretty sure, but here we go. We just send the first 2 lines of defense there. I haven't used Fire Breath yet because the boss isn't doing any damage. Okay, here the Frost Cyclone is happening, and I figured that it would do quite a bit of damage. I didn't know if it was going to do damage, but I sent in the Fire Breath anyways because I was kind of scared. So luckily damage did happen, so that Fire Breath was really good. And now I'm trying to get a Dream Breath opportunity here since that's the 4th line of defense, and there it is. Very big Dream Breath on everybody, so this is good. Now the Hailstorm is happening. And that guy got 1 shot, not really my fault. And I used Reversion to pick that guy up, that was good. Okay, that was a mistake right there. So if you see what happened here, the the Demon Hunter got blasted down to this much health. I should have used Reversion or Verdant Embrace or both to pick him up here, but instead I was scared, so I went straight into a Tip the Scales Spirit Bloom. So I did use Spirit Bloom on this guy, but I could have saved Spirit Bloom for later on. I didn't need to use Spirit Bloom here, but I used it because I was scared. So here's the Spirit Bloom right there. There it is. And then the Shadow Priest got blasted down here. This is where I was supposed to use Spear Bloom. I should have used it right here, but I didn't. So now I'm kind of screwed here. I still do have Reversion and Verdant Embrace though. I don't know if I'm going to use it. No, I use Emerald Blossom instead. That was a mistake. No, yeah, I should have used Reversion way more. Whenever you see someone get bursted, you can just send the Reversion. Okay, you don't have to use Echo first into Reversion. You can just send the Reversion. But yeah, I just didn't do that here, so that's awkward. And then now everybody's dying, and I still have 2 stacks of Reversion and Verdant Embrace up, but I decided to use my last line of defense here, Emerald Communion, which was a really bad idea. But it does keep everyone alive, so that's good. But I didn't need to. I could have just used these. So yeah, now I'm looking for a Dream Breath opportunity. I just sent the Dream Breath early because I was scared. And it kind of worked out, so it was fine, I guess. I at least had the Verdant Embrace buff with it, so that was good. I'm just rotating between my first 2 lines of defense again, waiting for something to happen. I still have Rewind, but that's my only cooldown that I have left because I burned through the other ones a little bit too quickly. Okay, just waiting for damage to happen, just waiting. Okay, here comes a Hailstorm. And the Shadow Priest got 1 shot, and the rest of us almost got 1 shot. I used Rewind there because I was absolutely terrified. Rewind didn't seem to do much, but I used it. And now I'm fucked. I'm completely out of all of my lines of defense, but I'm still not using Reversion and Verdant Embrace nearly enough. I do have Dream Breath and Spirit Bloom back up, though, and I have Fire Breath back up, so my cooldowns are kind of coming back up, so that's good. And the boss is almost dead, so I don't really, probably am not going to need to use them, but there's the Dream Breath. Okay. That was a good Dream Breath. I could use Fire Breath as here as well, which I probably should do if I can remember that I have it. Okay, I tried to use Fire Breath there. I always forget that I have Fire Breath. I should make a weak orb for that. But, yeah. Anyways, that was the boss. I healed through all of the damage. That wasn't just Swifty one-shot damage, so I felt like that went pretty well. Obviously, my biggest mistake was just not using these 2 spells nearly enough, but other than that, pretty good. Pretty good. That's basically what the bosses are going to look like. Let's do this boss now. The big fucking stupid idiot frog. Okay, so on this boss, I don't dispel on purpose because I want to test out my healing. I want to see how much healing I can do. So let's see what happens here. So just, again, first 2 lines of defense, easy peasy. Just waiting for stuff to happen. There's a nice Fire Breath opportunity here, and I use it, which is good. So now people are going to start getting absolutely fucked up by this dot, but that's good because I want something to heal. Just again, rotating through my first few lines of defense. Haven't used Dream Breath yet. Just waiting for a Dream Breath opportunity. There's a Dream Breath opportunity. Okay, there's the Verdant Embrace. Now I'm putting Echo on everybody. That guy died to nothing. And there's the Dream Breath. Okay, perfect. Got a big Dream Breath on everybody. Now I'm just waiting. Haven't used Spirit Bloom yet. Good, just holding on to that for a rainy day. Just kind of chilling out. Trying to get all my essence back with Temporal Anomaly and Living Flame. Trying to get some essence burst here. Okay, it looks pretty scary. That guy died again to nothing. And just chilling out. Haven't used Spirit Bloom. Wait, did I use Spirit Bloom? Oh, I did use Spirit Bloom there. Okay, so I had to use my Spirit Bloom here because people were getting fucked. There's the Spirit Bloom right there. Okay, so I still have Emerald Communion. I still have Rewind, I think. Oh no, did I use Rewind? Where did I use Rewind? Oh, I just sent it here. Okay, I didn't have to send Rewind there. But, you know, I guess it's fine. I have Fire Breath back up, but I probably have forgotten that I have that ability. So that's stupid of me. I'll probably send the Fire Breath if there's more ads later on. I should use Reversion. I don't know why I'm using Living Flame there. Should use Reversion on myself. Okay, just Temporal Anomaly. Yep. Okay, here's a Fire Breath opportunity. Let's see if I can remember that I have that ability. Am I remembering? Nope, not remembering. I'm going for another Dream Breath. No, I don't even have Dream Breath up. Please use Fire Breath, you dirty boy. Okay, good boy. So there's a Fire Breath. I go straight into an Emerald Communion because I'm going And I didn't have Dream Breath, or I didn't have like the Wombo combo for Dream Breath yet. So I just went straight into Emerald Communion. Okay, that was a good reversion. I should have used Verdant Embrace there. Yep, now I'm going to go for a Dream Breath. Yeah, I got Echo on this guy who's taking the most damage, so that was okay. And yeah, overall pretty good. Pretty good. Used some cooldowns a little bit too early, but overall that was not too bad, I feel. Alright, that was the gameplay. Now all you have to do is practice. But before I end this video, let me quickly talk about my predictions for how raiding will play out. Now, I'm not a retail raiding expert. In fact, I haven't raided on retail since Warlords of Draenor. But from what I can tell, your goal will be to shove as much healing as possible into those high burst raid damage situations. And then outside of that, you'll just kind of be tickling the raid with living flames and reversions and shit. One thing to know about raid healing is that you don't need to be well-rounded because you're healing with other healers. In dungeons, you need to be more well-rounded. You need to have a little bit of tank healing, a little bit of spot healing, a little bit of raid healing, a little bit of everything, because dungeons, you have to deal with every situation yourself. But in raids, it's okay to be a one-trick pony, as long as you're absolutely godlike at your one thing. So if you think about it, what is the one thing that evokers are really good at? It's raid healing. That's what they're good at. So in order to maximize HPS in a raid, I feel like the best way to go about doing that would be to spec into as much AoE healing as possible, thereby essentially buffing what you're already good at and making it godlike. And if that means sacrificing all of your spot healing and tank healing capabilities, then so be it. I don't know a lot about retail raiding anymore, but I'm sure there are other healing classes that spot heal and tank heal really well, so it's okay to be a one-trick pony and just full send raid healing. Here's an example of a build that could potentially be good in a raid. Notice how you don't have Fire Breath or Living Flame healing, you don't have 2 stacks of reversion, and you don't have Golden Hour. You're quite literally a one-trick pony. You are a raid heal pumping machine. Another thing to note is that the bottom talents are technically all good for raiding, but the ones you'll end up picking will be the ones that you can actually land without overhealing. Technically, Dreamflight is the easiest one to land in a raid environment without overhealing, but it also does the least potential throughput out of all 3 because of its long cooldown. Whereas Cycle of Life has the highest potential throughput out of all 3 so long as you're actually able to land the effect often without overhealing, which will entirely depend on how well you play and the type of damage that the boss does. So let me tell you how you deal with a big burst of raid damage with this build here. And I'm not going to explain why this specific sequence of spells is good, because it would take too long, and the focus of this guide is dungeon healing, not so much raid healing, so you'll just have to figure it out on your own. But I suspect something good you could do would be to spam Temporal Anomaly and Living Flame before the damage happens, to get a huge Absorb Shield on people, and to get Essence Burst as well. Then once the damage happens, or right before the damage happens, you would cast this sequence of spells. Verdant Embrace, Emerald Blossom, Stasis, Dream Breath, Emerald Blossom, Spear Bloom, Stasis again, and then Emerald Blossom spam. And for other burst raid damage situations, you would do the exact same thing, but you would substitute in Dreamflight, or Emerald Communion, or a Rewind instead of Stasis. You can also hold on to your Stasis for 30 seconds instead of using it immediately, so keep that in mind. Here's another quick tip for you. I would recommend using Temporal Anomaly on the ranged DPS and spamming Emerald Blossom on the melee DPS, or vice versa, so that you're spreading out your healing as much as possible and not sniping yourself. Anyways, that is how I expect Evoker will play in a raid, but depending on if the boss has ads or if mana ends up being an issue, the spec and the gameplay could change into something else entirely, so just keep that in mind. That's it. Thank you for watching my Evoker guide. I'm quitting Dragonflight now. Bye-bye.